Is it worth spending over £40, that's $46, on a foundation or an eye palette? Or what about over £20 for a concealer? Well, in this video, I'm going to talk you through my 6 most expensive items and tell you whether I think they're worth your money. Now, this video is in collaboration with my dear friend on YouTube, Maggie D. She and I connected on YouTube about 9 months ago, and we both started our channels at roughly the same time. I think she was a little later than me. And somehow we found each other and we just clicked. She mostly focuses on makeup and skincare for the over 50s, and lately she's branched out into lifestyle. She lives in a remote corner of Colorado with a large amount of wildlife for company, and our lives couldn't be more different, as I live a city life in London. But we both love pushing ourselves up with makeup. We want value for money and we don't take any BS. If you don't know her already, then please head over to her channel and say hello. I know you will love her warmth, her honesty and her humour. And she's gorgeous to look at too. And now to the products. I've chosen 6 and they add up to the princely sum of £192, which is about $225. So is it worth spending $225 on 6 products? Well, if you'd like to find out, please give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, and we're good to go. Oh, and I'm Des, by the way. Welcome or welcome back. I'm an over 60 Brit with a love of makeup, skincare and fashion. So without further ado, let's get into the products. So the first product I've chosen is a foundation, and it is by Hourglass, and it is their latest foundation. It's only been out a few weeks, and it's the Hourglass Ambient Soft Glow Foundation. And I literally only have a sample pot because I went in to try it about a week ago. I'm filming this at the end of August, so this was sort of towards the back end of August. And I went into a Space NK, which is a great chain of makeup stores in the UK. And I thought, well, I'll just try it. And if I like it, I was going to buy a bottle. But actually, the very nice sales assistant gave me a couple of sample pots, one in 7.5 and one in 8. And I tried them both, and the 7.5 was definitely the right one. So I went into another store and bought what I thought was the 7.5, but when I got it home I realised it was the 7. So I'm now waiting to be sent the 7.5, so I don't have the bottle to show you, but of course everything I talk about will be listed and linked below. So what I've actually got is this tiny weeny little sample here, but there's enough for me to apply to show you what I think is an amazing foundation. Now the reason I say that is it was very easy to apply, but I've had 2 compliments on my complexion, which I never get. Okay, one was from my daughter and one was from one of my closest friends, but neither of them give their compliments freely, if you know what I mean. They're not schmoozers. They are honest opinions in my estimation. So I just thought, wow, I was going to choose the Lisa Eldridge, but I've got to go with this, even though I can't actually show you the bottle. So let me apply it. Let me just get my hair out of the way. Now I'm actually applying foundation in a slightly different way to the way I usually do. And I'm using a brush. I mean, there's nothing new about that, but I'm stippling it rather than sort of swiping it. And I got this technique. I mean, perhaps I should have known this anyway, but I was watching the lovely Smitta Deepak, and I'll link her channel down below for you. She is a makeup artist. She's just absolutely amazing and comes up with some fantastic tips and tricks. Right, so let me just stick my finger very gingerly in the pot, and I'm just going to dab it. I mean, actually, there's not a bad amount in here because you don't need very much. You really don't. Now, what's interesting is, 2 interesting facts. Well, I think they're interesting to me. One is that a lot of the reviews have said that the tones for some people are too yellow. Now, interestingly, I always think of myself as a cool, neutral kind of gal. But my friend who said that my skin looked really lovely noticed, and she has an art background, so she really is into colour and understands tones and all that sort of thing. She said that this looked warmer or warm, and she thought it suited me, which is interesting. It could be because I'm a little bit browner than normal, because obviously it's the summer, and although of course I wear my SPF dedicatedly and carefully, it is quite possible that I have got a bit of colour. Now it is buildable, so I can see that I could do with a little bit more. So I'm just going to actually, do you know what, I might just take the, oh, I've got some on my fingers now, that's okay. Because I can always see if this little mark here isn't covered up, then I'd rather have a little bit more coverage. So let me just build it up. But you can see it's got a nice sheen to it, hasn't it? I mean, it says it's a liquid foundation, it's long wearing, it's skin-like, soft focus, blurring, all the words that you want to hear from a foundation. Oh, and by the way, it's vegan friendly and cruelty free, and doesn't contain fragrance, which, as you know, if you've been watching my channel for a while, that is absolutely vital to me because I am allergic to most fragrances. Now, is it worth the money? This is the question. I mean, it is probably the most expensive foundation I've ever bought. I think it's about £45 at the moment. As I say, all the details will be down below for you. So it's more expensive than the Lisa, I think, although I did get a discount on it because Space NK were having a sale at the time. But it is super, super expensive. But I've had 2 compliments on it, so I think in a way it probably is worth it. And you only need a tiny bit. You could see, I mean, you can see the size of the pot. I've already had, how many wears? This is the 3rd wear I've had out of it. Ooh. Well, I've just spilt it, so I don't think I'm going to have as much wear as I was hoping out of that pot. However, if you were not as cat-handed as me, I'm sure if you looked after it, you would get a lot of wear out of it. Look, I've just spilt it all over my towel. Honestly, what a disaster. I'll probably be able to scoop it back in. Anyway, you get my drift. You really don't need a lot of foundation and you get a really decent coverage out of it, and I'm absolutely delighted with it. So what's the verdict? I have decided that this foundation is definitely worth the money for these reasons. It's very easy to apply. You don't need a lot of it. I've had 2 compliments on my complexion since I started using it, and I just think it looks great. So number 2 is the Teint Idole All Over Ultra Wear Concealer. Now, I've talked about this many times before. It's all over YouTube. Everybody loves it. Now, I've nearly finished it, but I absolutely love this concealer. It just goes on really easily. It lasts all day. I'll apply it for you just to show you. I mean, I'm very baggy and dark under my eyes, aren't I, at the moment? I mean, I actually apply it with a swipe like this. I really don't apply it all that carefully because I think, and I use a damp sponge, you can just shear it out like this. I mean, yes, okay, I'm probably using too much of it. Maybe I don't need to quite as much, but it's just so easy to apply. It doesn't really settle into fine lines. I mean, I must caveat that by saying if you've got a fine line, something's going to settle in it. I mean, actually, these aren't fine lines and these aren't that fine either. But it doesn't look cakey. It's nice and light. The colour's great. I mean, look at that. That's pretty damn good, isn't it, I would say. It's the right shade for me. This is a 02, which I think is a light medium, which I think is perfect. It goes beautifully with the foundation. Job done. And the other thing to say is it is really reliable and long wearing. I mean, at the end of the day, there's still some there. After 8 hours, I might need to reapply it. In fact, I did reapply it when I went out on Friday night, last Friday night, when my daughter said my complexion looked great. Little did she know I actually had 1 shade on either side. I had the 8 on this side, I think the 7.5 on that side of the foundation. But the concealer, I literally just took a bit and applied it as I've just done. I powdered over the top, which I'm going to do now, and it stayed on and looked great and didn't look cakey or heavy at all. I just think it's a really great concealer, and it is expensive. I think it's £26 in the UK, but it's a really great concealer, and this one's lasted me for ages. Okay, I have used other concealers during that time, but I think it's a really great product, and that's why it's been so popular. I mean, in all honesty, I've picked it because it's one of the most expensive products I've got in the concealer range. In fact, I think it is the most expensive. I might still have a little bit of a Laura Mercier concealer slash colour corrector, which I probably had for about 5 years, and that might have been more expensive. But of the sort of regular concealers, I think this is more expensive than the NARS, which I've also got. I mean, you know, on balance, is it worth it? Well, if you want a reliable concealer that you know is never going to let you down, then it probably is. And you only need the one. You don't need to have 5 or 6 like I've got. So I would say on balance, yes, it is. And so to number 3, and this is a very recent purchase as well, not quite as recent as the Hourglass foundation, but nearly, and it is the Dior Eye Palette, and it's this one. I mean, look at those beautiful colours. It's called, to be precise, the Dior Backstage Eye Palette in 004 Rosewood. Now, let me swatch it for you while I tell you about it. Now, this is definitely the most expensive palette I've ever bought. I think it was £39. It's slightly more than a Charlotte Tilbury that I bought in the summer when I was on holiday in Sephora. I'm going to do a Sephora haul. I know I keep promising that, but I will do one. But this isn't from that. This was another palette. I was just seeing all these palettes all over YouTube with Charlotte Holdcroft and Heba from Heba's channel. They're just beautiful palettes, and I don't know whether I'd seen this specific one, but I just saw it in Boots and I just wanted to buy it. So let me just swatch a few. I tell you what, actually, before I do that, let me just tell you what I love about this. It's really straightforward. It's actually got a primer here, then it's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 matte shades, and then 1 highlighter, which is here, 1 metal, which is there, and 1 shimmer, which is there. Now, I'm going to swatch them for you, and I think the idea of having a primer is such a great idea. So we've got the primer, which is here. Then we've got this is the kind of, well, not really the transition shade, but it is a matte shade. Let me put that here. So you can see that's a bit pinkier. Then we've got, this one is called the highlight, this one. Let's put that there. I mean, look at those beautiful shades. Then we've got a matte. Then we've got another lovely pinky matte here. Then another matte down here, sort of browny, purpley one. Oh, wow, look at that. And then a sort of even more purpley one just here. That was probably more maroon, I suppose, and this is more purple. Oh, wow. And then these two, which I haven't actually used. Oh, no, I think I did try this one. So this is the, no, that's the, sorry, this is the shimmer here. And then this one here is the metal. Wow, look at those. I mean, aren't they just beautiful? So let me show you how I've been applying it. And one of the great things about this palette is I have not had any fallout from it at all. Not one iota, not one speck has fallen onto my cheek. So we're going to start with the primer. That's this one here. Now normally I would put, well, I did put concealer on my eye, didn't I? Normally I would powder my lid afterwards, but because we're putting the primer on from the eyeshadow, so it feels very nice. It's a proper primer, this. It's not a powder, it's a cream. So popping that on. There we go. Now I'm not going to set it with a powder. Well, I am going to set it with a powder, but not a normal powder. I'm going to use the eyeshadow powder. So I'm going to use, let me just get a brush. I'm going to use this shade here, which is a kind of a, it's not really a transition shade, it is more of a sort of an all over priming colour really, I suppose you might call it. So let's just pop that on here like that to sort of set the primer. And absolutely no fallout. Although funnily enough I did just see a little puff go up, but it doesn't seem to have fallen on my cheek. That's typical, isn't it? This is what happens when you do demos. Anyway, what we don't want is any massive coloured fallouts on our cheeks, do we? We don't want purple, and we're already purple enough under there. So there we are, that's just given us a nice kind of priming colour to put on. Now the next colour I'm going to choose, I think, will be this rather nice brown here, and I think I'll probably use the same brush. And I'm going to put this on my lid, on my movable lid. Now let's see, if I tap it off, is anything going to come out? Well, not much. Right, so let's pop that on. Look at that great colour, fantastic pigment, really brilliant. So I'm going to pop that on all over the lid like that, and on the other side. Just take a bit more. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a darker colour with a sort of denser, is that a word even? A more dense brush. Denser probably is a word actually. Let's use this one. And we'll take the darker colour, this one here. Now what I'm going to do, this is always really tricky. What I'm going to do is, let me come as close as I possibly can whilst looking in the mirror. I'm going to pull my lid. This is always really tricky. I find it really difficult to put a darker colour on the edge, because look at my elephant hide eyes. I mean, look at them. They are just like elephant hide. They're so wrinkly that if I start to stray anywhere up here, it's just a disaster. It just looks awful. So really what I've decided is all I want to do is just put a bit of colour on the edge, but on the movable lid and nowhere near the edge of the movable lid, because then it just goes all to pot. So, and actually in a way I almost have to come in a bit. That's the other thing. I have to come in a bit because, I mean, look, this is what I have to do, the lengths we have to go to, and I'm just going to come, actually let me just quickly do it for you and see how it looks, and then I'll show you exactly where I've put the colour. I am going to be blending, but you see what I mean, I've had to put it almost inside the movable, not inside the movable lid, but more inside on the lid, as it were, than I might otherwise. And then you see when I open my eye, you can see it's right on the edge now, even though it didn't look like it was when I was applying it. Right, I'm now going to blend these two out, so let me do that. Nice sort of gentle, actually I shouldn't really do circular, I need to just do gentle motions on my very, very wrinkly skin. It's so wrinkly, oh, it's so difficult to get any sort of light and shade on your eyes when they're this wrinkly, but I think this is looking okay. We are going to add a little bit of shimmer in a minute. See, it's already started to come out at the side. That's a bit too much, and my eyes are so different. That's the other thing. One is wrinklier than the other, or one has wrinkles in a different place. Ah, the joys of aging. I know we're very lucky, it's all fab, but you know, we just have to adapt our techniques, don't we, to suit our current position. Right, we're now going to use a little bit of the highlighter, this sort of beigey one. And I'm just going to pop that, this is what it looks like. I'm just going to pop that on the inner part of my eyelid, just there, very gently. Just to give a bit of brightness, like that. Do the other eye. There we are. Now we might do a little bit more blending just to tidy this up. Okay, now have we got any fallout? Let's just see. I mean, not much really, is it? If anything. And I think what we'll do is we'll take the very darkest colour we used, which was this one, and we'll just pop a little bit underneath to just, yeah, let me come here. Just to give a bit more definition to the bottom part of the eye. Now this little bit here has still gone a bit funny. And actually, do you know what? I need to even... the joys of making yourself up on camera. I've just realised that this side is not quite as even, so I'm going to go back in with a with a darker one here and just put a bit more there, because I probably went a bit too far on the other side. There, that's better, isn't it? Now that's a bit more even. Excellent. So as you can see, this is everything in a palette, in an eye palette that you would want. I mean, I've probably got about 20 eye palettes, and really, do I need 20 eye palettes? No. So if you are in the market for a palette and you perhaps don't have a palette, this has all the beautiful colours that suit me anyway, all the cool colours with a little bit of warmth as well. I mean, they are absolutely beautiful. And I just think this palette is gorgeous. And actually, if I compare it to the Charlotte Tilbury, it's just not in the hunt. Number 5 is a mascara by YSL, Yves Saint Laurent. I haven't owned an Yves Saint Laurent product since probably Paris, the perfume, back in the day. But I saw this when I was in Sephora in France, and I just thought, well, let's give it a go. It looked nice. I really like the big fat casing. And I just thought, well, let's give it a go. And of course, the sales assistant, being French and this being a French brand, was very keen to have me test it. And I thought it looked quite good. And so I thought I'd try it. Honestly, I had no idea how amazing it would be. Now, just check out my lashes, okay? You can see they are lifted a little bit. That's because I have a lash lift every few months, but they're pretty short. So I'm going to show you how amazing this mascara is. And there it is. It's got sort of some amazing new technology, they say, but who knows. What you really want, or what I want out of a mascara, is I want thickness and I want volume, and I don't want it to flake on my cheeks. And this delivers all of that in spades. Now I'm going to come as close as I can, and I'm not going to talk while I put it on, because it is a nightmare trying to do that at the same time. So here we go. Now, what do you think? One coat. Pretty good, huh? So what do we think? I've put mascara on the other eye now. I mean, honestly, they are lifted, they are volumized, they are separated. I mean, yeah, there might be a tiny bit of cakiness, but no one's going to notice, are they? They're black. They're everything that I want in a lash. I absolutely love them. And they're not ridiculously expensive. I mean, yes, they are much more expensive than my Maybelline Sky High mascara, which I loved, and I still have that and I still wear it. Although, to be honest, I am wearing this one every day, and I've actually bought a new one already because I've just been wearing it all the time. So I suppose if you want reliability, and I know it can be hit and miss because sometimes you have to wait a bit for a couple of weeks until they get going. And I know some YouTubers haven't enjoyed this. In fact, Charlotte Holdcroft didn't really like it. But for me, it's given me the lashes I want. It's given me that length. It's given me that curl. It's given me that separation. And I absolutely love it. Right, number 5 is by Charlotte Tilbury, and it's a Cheek to Chic blusher. And it's this one here. It's in the famous Pillow Talk shade. Now, why did I buy this? Well, to me, it actually looks a bit like a bronzer. And let me swatch it for you. And why I love it and why I've picked it is because I have been using this in place of a blusher. Actually, let me do it on here. In place of a blusher and a bronzer. Look, those are the two colours, and they are really lovely colours, and I think they are a great, as two colours distinct, even though I know you're supposed to swish and pop or whatever Charlotte says. I think they are really great colours to wear for blusher and bronzer at the same time, or simultaneously. Right, so let me show you what I mean. I just mix them together, swirl it around, pop it on, and you can see it's a kind of blusher slash bronzer. It also looks nice on the eyes. We'll put a little bit here, as we always do, and then we will get our kabuki brush. Ooh, eating my hair, sorry. And we'll give it a good old blend. Now, it has to be said that this colour is probably best suited to the summer months, or spring summer, because there's no rosy tones in it. It is quite bronzy. But I think it's absolutely fantastic, and rather than fiddle-faddling around with 2 colours, you can literally just get it all done in one and you're good to go. I mean, is it worth it? Well, the jury's out, isn't it, in a way, because you can use a blusher and a bronzer. You don't need to get one product, and the product that's pricey, which I can't remember exactly how much this is, but it's probably in the 30 or thereabouts pounds. Most Charlotte products are, aren't they? But it's really quick and easy, and if you're after quick and easy and you don't mind having one that does a dual job, then why not? I think it's great, and I'm really pleased I found it. And actually, I think I will investigate some more of those Cheek to Chic in case there are some cooler toned ones that I can use in the winter months. Now we come to the 6th and final product that I've chosen as one of my most expensive purchases, and is it worth it, is a lipstick. And in fact, I could have chosen any Lisa Eldridge lipsticks because they are the most expensive that I have. I used to have some Charlotte Tilbury's, but unfortunately they've got perfume or fragrance in them, so I can't use them anymore. And actually I did get given a little YSL sample that went with the mascara when I bought the mascara in Sephora, but I can't wear that either because it's got fragrance in it. Why? In fact, most of the high-end sort of perfume brands and their cosmetics do have perfume in them, like Dior foundations, for example. Luckily their eyeshadows don't, but anyway, rant over. So what was I going to choose from the Lisa Eldridge range? And what I've gone with actually is a lip gloss, which is kind of weird because if you look back at my earlier videos from last year when I first started, I was really anti lip gloss. I absolutely didn't like a glistening lip. But something's happened over the last few months, and I've decided that actually I quite like a glistening lip after all. So I've gone with the Gloss Embrace in the shade Blush. Now, I used to have a Gloss Embrace in a different shade, and it wasn't the right shade for me, so I didn't repurchase it. I can't remember what it was. It's a bit too pale, but I thought I'd give these another go, and I thought I'd try this shade Blush. Now, let me just swatch it for you, and then I'm going to put it on. Oh, my Lord, it is just so beautiful. There, look at that colour. Absolutely gorgeous. And actually, not to waste any, because it is a high-end product, and I'm saying, is it worth it? And I'm going to push it straight on our lips like this. I talk like a ventriloquist. Gostle gear, this is right. And then I will actually finish it off with the applicator. Now, this doesn't contain any fragrance at all, which is right up my alley, as you know. And what I sometimes like to do is put a lip liner on afterwards. Look at that gorgeous colour. Right, let's get a lip liner, and we'll use this Charlotte because I've just got a couple of these lip cheats, and this is in Pillow Talk, funnily enough. Everything's in Pillow Talk, isn't it? And let's just do that around here like that. I think it just kind of finishes it off, doesn't it? Just sort of looks polished, literally and metaphorically. So there we have it. What do you think about these products? Do you think they're worth the money? Everything I've talked about will be listed and linked below. And actually, I have paid a lot of money for these products, but I will continue to use them. And actually, to be honest, they could be my desert island items. I wouldn't really need much more, would I? I probably need a little powder, which I've used to put under my eyes. I might use an eyebrow gel or possibly a pencil. I've slightly gone off eyebrow pencils at the moment and just using a gel. What else do you need? Not much else, I would argue. So I really, really love these products, and for my money, they are worth it. So there you have it. Those are my most expensive makeup products. There are 6 of them. I think they are absolutely worth it to me. But of course, there are other products and other cheaper products that you can find that will do a great job for you. They just aren't these products. Elf is a great brand, so is Wet n Wild, so are Maybelline. There are wonderful makeup companies out there doing great products for much less money. So if you don't want to spend the money on these products, really you don't need to. But for me, and I'm lucky enough to be able to buy them, I absolutely love them and I would highly recommend them. Now, I really hope you've enjoyed this video, and don't forget, go and check out Maggie D's version of this video. She and I are such great mates, even though we've never met. I absolutely love her, and I really hope if you don't know her that you will love her as much as I do. She's warm, she's witty, she's funny, and she's real. So thanks again so much for watching. If you've enjoyed it, thumbs up, subscribe, hit that bell, and I'll look forward to seeing you on my next video. And I really appreciate every single one of you. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.